Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for Friday, June 5th, 2026. In today's discussion, we're going to take an in-depth look at El Nino as the latest seasonal models, monthly seasonal models, namely the European seasonal, has released today, indicating that even though it seems impossible, this El Nino continues to uptrend, and it is looking increasingly likely that we are going to have a very strong event this year. And dare I say, and I'm very hesitant about saying this, but even potentially a record-breaking El Nino event is increasingly look like it'll be on the cards for this year. Obviously, we're going to talk about that. We're going to go in depth with all of the latest climate models that have come out for the month of June. And of course, we're also going to take a look at what's happening in the tropics right now. And of course, we're going to do that as well later on. So lots to go over today. Glad to have you along. Let's get started by taking a look at the NOAA Coral Reef Watch sea surface temperature anomalies across the Atlantic and the Pacific. And right off the bat here, you can see just the incredible amount of warmth that continues to build in the Pacific here. We have very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies here off the coast of South America, with some of these values exceeding as high as 3, 4, even some patches of 5 degrees Celsius beginning to show up here off the coast of South America, associated more than likely with the Nino 1 and 2 region here. And I'm actually going to show you just how warm the Nino 1 and 2 region is in just a little bit. But you're starting to see those really warm anomalies here pretty much spread throughout the entire equatorial Pacific. Many spots now reaching upwards of 2 degrees Celsius above normal along the equatorial Pacific. And obviously that's very important because 2 degrees Celsius is the threshold for Super El Nino, which is what everybody is anticipating this year. And those anomalies are already becoming quite widespread across the equatorial Pacific. So absolutely a massive El Nino is in the making right now. But obviously not just the fact that the equatorial Pacific is warm, but the tropical Pacific as well, also very warm. And this is quite significant too. And obviously we've talked about this before, but this is going to have massive implications on the Pacific hurricane season. And again, with these anomalies here, especially near the central Mexican coastline, reaching as high as 3 degrees Celsius, and the fact that it's still persistent is also quite incredible, and certainly representative of a very, very unusually warm Pacific this year, obviously, as El Nino continues to kick into high gear. And then, meanwhile, in the Atlantic, really quickly, just to briefly touch up on it, since, we have the map pulled up, things are nice and warm in the Atlantic right now for the most part. A little bit cooler in the eastern Atlantic as we have a lot of Saharan air, which kind of keeps a damper on the sea surface temperature anomalies, and from time to time also stronger trades as well. But certainly the Atlantic pales in comparison to how warm the Pacific is right now, and that's definitely quite the difference from the typical sea surface temperature pattern that we've seen in the last few years, and certainly fits the idea that this year is going to be a very unusual year. Taking a look at the Nino 3.4 sea surface temperature anomalies right now, and this is taking a look at the Nino 3.4 region, which, to give you an idea, is roughly kind of in between the eastern and central Pacific here. And the reason why I'm bringing up the Nino 3.4 specifically is because this area is generally where we monitor the strength of ENSO. And right now, the latest value is at 1.4 degrees Celsius, above normal, positive 1.4 Celsius, and climbing. And honestly, quite astonishing that we are already at 1.4 degrees Celsius, and it is only June 4th. And this is already, 1 degree Celsius is the threshold that we need for moderate El Nino. So the fact that we are already at moderate El Nino threshold with the daily sea surface temperature anomalies here is quite incredible. And once again, this is only going to continue to go up and up and up as the weeks go by, and as the atmosphere becomes even more favorable for our strong El Nino. And we'll obviously also talk about that in a little bit. But What's even more astonishing, as I mentioned before, these very, very warm anomalies here off the South American coastline, roughly in the Nino 1 and 2 region, and there we have anomalies already at 2.4, well, I was about to say 2.5. I mean, we did actually reach 2.5 for a few days here, but kind of gone down a little bit. I mean, you can't expect the sea surface temperature anomalies to always hold in one spot, but 2.46 degrees Celsius above normal is the latest value in the Nino 1.2, obviously closer to South America. I mean, you could still round it up to 2.5. Bottom line, the Pacific is incredibly warm, and all of these values here will continue to warm up and get higher as the weeks go by. And to give you another perspective on the sea surface temperature anomalies, here's the latest Nino SST departures according to the NOAA Climate Prediction Center, and the latest weekly value is at 0.5 degrees Celsius. So this is, first of all, the NOAA Climate Prediction Center here uses the relative Nino index, so they have slightly lower values, but this is also this graph here, but pretty much averaged on a weekly basis instead of taking a look at this on a daily basis like this graph does. So obviously, because of that, the sea surface temperature anomalies here are lower, but we still are already at 0.5 degrees Celsius in the Nino 3.4 on the weekly averages. So El Nino is definitely on setting right now, and once again, this is just going to continue to go up and up and up over these next several weeks and over the next several months, as it eventually builds to this right here. And this is the latest European seasonal forecast released as of today for June. And this is the outcome that is expected by the time we get to the late summer. I actually should have brought up the fall here, but I'll show you the monthly Nino 3.4 forecast from the Euro seasonal in just a little bit. But we're going to build to a mega event here. Very, very warm sea surface temperature anomalies likely will continue to spread throughout the entire tropical Pacific. And obviously, the warmth that we have in the tropical Eastern Pacific is obviously only going to continue to persist as well. And eventually, with the Nino 3.4, at least according to the Euro, the latest forecast for June indicates that sometime in November or December, as we get towards the winter, we likely will see a peak in this El Nino at maybe 3 degrees Celsius. I mean, most of these ensembles here, I mean, there's still a few ensembles that are on the lower end of the forecast here, showing below 3 degrees Celsius, but we're talking about the Euro. The Euro is a pretty widely regarded seasonal model, as well as the European operational for, daily usages like I'm going to show you in just a little bit. And like we typically do on this channel, tracking on a daily basis, we use the Euro operational, but there's also the European seasonal as well, which is very highly regarded. And they just continue to uptrend with these Nino 3.4 forecasts. And I should note that this is the relative Nino forecast as well. So this is the methodology that reduces the sea surface temperature anomalies by a little bit, and yet this map still goes near to above 3 degrees Celsius in terms of the forecasted values for the Nino 3.4. So quite a massive El Nino event expected this year, and especially massive because the threshold, once again, for super El Nino status, like we're all anticipating, is at 2 degrees Celsius, and as you could obviously see, we are well surpassing that. All of the ensembles predict an El Nino above 2 degrees Celsius this year. And it's not just the European that indicates that. We obviously have the CFS as well, which it too, according to its relative Nino forecast, indicates potential El Nino at or slightly above 3 degrees Celsius here. And that's according to the mean. Obviously, we have some ensembles here that go higher than that, but bottom line, all of the major global climate models like the European and the CFS, they're all agreeing now that we are going to have a massive El Nino this year, and it makes a lot of difference that we are especially seeing this now because it's June, it's hurricane season, so obviously we know that we are going to have a massive El Nino that'll affect the hurricane season, but also we are definitely now well past the spring predictability barrier. So we also are getting much closer to the winter and fall, and I mean we already have this El Nino event building here in the Pacific. So what I'm trying to tell you is that it is looking increasingly likely that this El Nino event is going to be one that'll definitely be very strong and potentially one for the record books here. And that's not hype. I know there's a lot of people online who like to hype up El Nino, and I'll be honest with you, talking about a very, very strong El Nino definitely does get a lot of good clicks on YouTube and Twitter. And I've seen that play out firsthand, to be quite honest with you. But it's the reality of what we are dealing with at this point, especially when all of the models every single month continue to come out and show the reality that we are potentially going to reach 3 degrees Celsius here with this El Nino. It could obviously still change, and maybe we might still fall slightly below it, but either way, even if we don't reach 3 Celsius, we are definitely still going to see a very strong El Nino on the cards for this year. And speaking of how things are playing out right now, the atmosphere is definitely already responding very much like an El Nino. The latest SOI values for today, the daily contribution is at negative 29, a whopping negative 29 points. The 30-day average is at negative 17, and the 90-day average is now at negative 8. All of these values are below negative 7, which is the threshold that you typically look at for El Nino on the SOI. So atmospherically, we are definitely beginning to respond like an El Nino, and a pretty potent one, that's for sure. So you definitely know that El Nino is already coming. It's basically already here. So that, at least, in the very least, is guaranteed. But especially when you see a lot of these very strong daily contribution values, and you know what, I'm actually going to turn on the graph here. Especially just take a look at the last week or so. Obviously, today we saw negative 29. Yesterday we saw negative 35. Day before that, negative 34, negative 27. Quite some aggressive anomalies here with the SOI, and it's just you just got to take it you just got to take it for what it is. It's the atmosphere telling you that we are going to have a very significant El Nino on the way, and we are definitely already seeing that play out here with the SOI and also with the velocity potential. This is a look at the latest velocity potential anomalies right now as of June 5th today. Typically, I show you the velocity potential chart going out for the next few weeks, but not often do I show you how it actually looks like today. And right now, lots of blues and purples here. On most of the other graphs, it tends to be green, but it all means the same thing. Lots of rising motion in the Pacific right now. And obviously, this is very much helping with tropical activity, as I'll go over in just a little bit. We are seeing a Central American gyre pattern set up, and we're also seeing the Eastern Pacific come to life. But beyond that, especially when you see a lot of very strong rising motion like this in the Pacific, definitely something that you see in very strong El Nino years. And taking a look as well at the zonal wind anomalies, too, over the next several days here. I believe this is from the GFS. Westerlies all throughout the tropical Pacific, especially in the eastern and central Pacific, right in that Nino 3.4 region. We are expecting very strong westerly winds here over the next several weeks. Also a very strong indicator of the atmosphere beginning to respond like an El Nino, and we've already seen quite a bit of strong westerly winds as well over the last several days here, hence why we've seen a pretty noticeable increase in the Nino 3.4 as of late. And looking back here at this graph, going over the next 2 weeks alone, as we get out to mid-June, those westerly winds are going to continue, especially here in the eastern Pacific, they're really going to rack up. And obviously, as I'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm pretty sure all of you are aware, this is definitely also not just going to help with El Nino, but also help fuel tropical development as well. But to kind of continue to write home the point about the fact that of how strong things are really beginning to shape up this year, even the westerly winds that are ongoing right now in the Pacific are also near record breaking. And this is according to Ben Knoll. He put out a tweet this morning. Super El Nino, an expansive, potent, and locally record-breaking westerly wind burst will continue traversing the Pacific throughout mid-June. This may generate another Kelvin wave that would transport warm water towards the eastern Pacific. There is much more ocean warming to come. And what he's talking about here is the subsurface anomalies. And I've showed you this map before. This is a take a look at all of the heat that is below the surface in the equatorial Pacific. And this kind of gives us an idea of just how much warmth there is for this El Nino to work with. And basically what Ben Knoll is saying is all of these westerly winds here are just going to continue to fuel all of these extremely warm sea surface temperature anomalies below the surface. And I mean, that is quite an expansive warm pool, I must say. Some of these values here going as high as 5, 6, even 7 degrees Celsius above normal. And obviously not all of those values are going to surface, but we have a lot of warmth below the Pacific. We have very, very strong westerly wind bursts here, which are going to continue over the next several weeks. And we're going to see a lot of this warmth here continue to move on upward and surface. And that's just going to continue to help fuel the loop here that'll probably get us to a near record strong, potentially record strong El Nino, like all the climate models are showing. And as well, when he mentions that we're going to see another Kelvin wave potentially, he's talking about potentially more warmth here all the way back in the Western Pacific. And it's kind of incredible that we still have some warmth here in the Western Pacific that is not traversed below the surface into the Eastern Pacific yet. So maybe we still might have a chance to build the subsurface warmth, which will obviously only help fuel El Nino even further. So all around, El Nino is looking like it is continuing to uptrend, and we are really about to be in for a significant event this year. In fact, it is already underway. And what does that mean for tropical activity? Well, we're already starting to see the ramifications here on the National Hurricane Center Bulletin right now. In the Eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Amanda, 45 miles per hour. This is going to be a very non-significant storm. In fact, probably is going to die off here in the next 1 to 2 days, so I wouldn't worry about that. But already more activity here showing up in the Eastern Pacific. Invest 91E, which has already been designated this morning. This is going to be something that we need to watch, especially for Mexico. This might bring impacts to land, especially if this, doesn't stay off the coast of Mexico. But even if it does, those along the Mexican coastline are probably still going to get a lot of rainfall here. But also Central America as well, as we have another area of interest here. So multiple areas to watch in the Eastern Pacific. So definitely a reflection of very favorable conditions here in the Pacific as we're seeing this El Nino ramp up. And as you know as well, especially with this second area of interest here, this might be of interest for us in the Atlantic too, especially since it'll more than likely get wrapped up and embedded in the Central American gyre pattern, which we are seeing set up right now. And that's going to lift northward over the next week to 10 days here, and that might be interesting for the Atlantic. And of course, we will go over that in depth at a later time. And I've already kind of delved into it a little bit, but obviously, especially over the next week here, we will continue to monitor that more closely. Here's a satellite shot of the Pacific right now to kind of give you an idea of what's happening. And again, a symptom of all of the rising air and favorable conditions that are right now in the Pacific. You could see lots of convective activity stretching all the way from near the Central American coastline here in the far Eastern Pacific, all the way west here up into about Tropical Storm Amanda, which is further to the west here, closer to the Central Pacific. And you could obviously see it looks very messy right now. We're not really going to go much into depth about this because there's really nothing. Again, really nothing much to talk about when it comes to Amanda, but it is a named storm regardless. But again, probably just going to continue off to the west here, maybe dip to the southwest a little bit, and die off here in the next day or two. But once again, our biggest interest here will be closer to Mexico, roughly right in here where we have 91E. And let's take a closer look at that. And I mean, there's nothing much to write home about right now. It's very broad, as once again, there's just a lot of energy kind of scattered out here throughout the Pacific. Especially, still kind of connected here to the ITCZ that's in the Pacific here. But there's a lot of energy out there, and clearly one pocket of energy here, which is 91E, which is beginning to consolidate, and will probably continue to consolidate here over the next several days. And let me show you that on the GFS here. And you can see 91E here further to the west, and then we have the second area of interest here, further to the east, and they're kind of going to do a little bit of a dance here. I mean, they're both going to be very close together, so there's going to be a lot for the models to hash out, because given how close they are together, one could influence the other. Maybe this could go this way, or this could go that way, or do who knows. But I mean, it's especially of interest to us, number one, because in general, I'm someone who tracks the tropics and gives information to you guys who are in general probably watching from these areas, especially in the tropics, and this will bring impacts to people. So if there is a system out there that is bringing an impact to somebody, I am definitely going to cover it. And you can see here over the next few days, whatever does happen here will definitely be very close to the Mexican coastline. And also the second area of interest here, not an invest yet, that might as well get closer to, or get close and probably go over Central America, as once again, there will be a lot of energy here over Central America, kind of get wrapped up in it. And then obviously, as you can see on the GFS as well, as we get towards the end of next week, we start to see some of that energy kind of reflect itself in the Gulf, and that'll make things interesting for the Atlantic hurricane season. But obviously, that is a week away, more than a week away, and there's still a lot of uncertainty with exactly what's going to happen, but definitely a lot to watch here over the next week to 2 weeks, and we will continue to do so. So please make sure to stay tuned for that. All right, but I'm going to wrap it up for today's video. We went over everything. We went over El Nino. We went over a lot. And obviously, once again, there's still a lot more to come. So if you want to stay tuned and you want to, be here for my videos, I do them on a daily basis. And if you like that, please make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. Like this video to help the algorithm, obviously, but also like it if you like the content as well. And comment any questions or concerns you have below. Whatever you want to say, obviously, please make sure it is respectful, and also please make sure it's on topic as well, because I've seen some people say some wild stuff sometimes. And I'll definitely try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.